A lot of the great solos that you hear on acoustic blues guitar are really not as different from the chord parts as you might imagine. When we learned chords and we learned how to embellish chords, what we were really doing is creating melodies using notes that belong to the chord as well as notes that are built around the chord. In other words, scale tones, right? Now, rather than learn scale patterns up and down the neck, as is the custom when learning electric guitar, we're going to concentrate on the chords themselves and mainly in the open position, because that's where the real nature of acoustic comes out to the fullest, all right? Now, what I just played there, for instance, was an example of what I think of as playing melodies around the chord shapes. We did a little bit of this, and now we're going to take that idea and expand on it. Now, in the first video as well, I talked a little bit about right-hand technique and about some of the options that people have. You can use just bare thumb and fingers. You can use a flat pick, a thumb pick. Those are all different ways of getting the sound out of the instrument. And as I said in the first video, I prefer the flat pick because it's more versatile for me. And I'll show you some techniques for using the flat pick that really help you get the most out of it. So if I play an example using the pick and you want to use your fingers, that's quite all right. The sound is going to be a little different, but the techniques are essentially the same. All right? Now, let's say we want to get a melody, play a little solo, that is, around an E chord. What are the different options? Rather than looking at a scale pattern right off the bat, let's look at the notes of the chord and see what we can get out of it without really changing much. For instance, right there, that's a real traditional phrase built around the notes of the E dominant 7th chord. Now, to review, E dominant 7th in a typical voicing is played like that. Now, when you look at the notes of the chord, you're seeing notes that could be reconfigured, played in a different order to make a melody. Right? If I simply play the notes out of order, it already starts to sound a little bit more melodic, and all I need to do is add a couple of little phrasing ideas, and I can really make it happen. Now, what I did when I played that lick was this right here. Really common technique. And this is all done with the flat pick, although, as I said, you can use your thumb. But there's no finger picking involved here. Now, here's how it goes. I'm starting with the open low E, playing the E on the 4th string. Since I'm not literally playing the chord, I'm going to re-finger it. Rather than using my 3rd finger as I normally would, I'll use my 2nd. And then here's the heart of it right here. There's that little hammer on. Now, what I'm doing there is I'm picking the open G string, and then I'm clamping my index finger down at the 1st fret without picking again. Then I pick the high string. Right. Get that sound? And then the last note is another note that belongs directly to the chord, the 7th, right there. Right? And then I can end it up with a high E again. Now, because I'm using the open E chord and playing in open position, I can let that bass note ring, and that provides the background for my solo. So even if I'm playing by myself, I can still hear the chord while I'm playing the melody. Right? The sound of the chord rings together, and by the time I play all those notes, it's as if I played the chord itself, right? That's the idea. And from there on, it's a lot of experimentation, just fooling around with different possibilities. If I want to put it together in a 12-bar blues, for instance, key of E, I could play something like this. There's the A chord, right? I did the same idea. Now, remember when we played the A chord in the first part, we played that little embellishment there with the 4th finger playing while the chord is being held down. In this case, because I'm playing more of a melody and not worrying so much about the chord, I'm re-fingering it again for individual notes. Makes the notes ring out more clearly. Here's the open A string. 3rd finger is playing the G, then the F sharp. Now I pull it off. This is the opposite of a hammer-on. In other words, I pluck the note at the 2nd fret, pull my finger to the side without picking again. And then playing 2nd fret on the 2nd string. So I get. Right? And again, by the time I get done playing the lick, you can really hear the sound of the A7 chord. It's been assembled one note at a time rather than being played as a complete shape. Right? Now, one word about right hand technique. I said I'm flat picking. You can play it with your thumb and fingers, or a thumb pick if you like. The direction of the pick is not so important. In other words, let it be a natural thing. I'm using some downstrokes and some upstrokes, but nothing I'm going to play in this video is going to be so fast that you have to really work on your right hand. It's just getting it to be smooth and relaxed. In that particular instance, I'm using a combination of downstrokes and upstrokes, and many blues players will play almost all downstrokes except for the occasional upstroke just when it fits, all right? And that's all I'm going to say about the right hand in this particular instance, because we're going to get to it much more detail when we talk about finger picking, all right? So I've got a lick on E, a lick on A. I can come back to the E again. The progression returns to E. There's a continuation of the first lick. Now check this out. Then with the hammer on, and then I'm going to move the note down like that, like I did when I was embellishing the chord. Remember that, right? So now I've got. Right? So right now we've got 2 licks on the E chord, 1 on the A chord. Let's put them together in a 12 bar and see what we got. All right, here we go. From the top, key of E. Play along with me. 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's A again. E. What do you do on the B chord? That's the next thing coming up. That's what a lot of blues players do right there. Now, did you see my left hand fingers move? No, because I held the chord shape down and just used my right hand to create a little rhythmic melody. All right? That's all there is to it. Back to A. Back to E again, and I can play my turnaround lick. Remember this from the first part? So now putting those couple of licks together on the E and the A chord together with just the rhythmic picking of the B chord, we have a complete 12-bar solo. I'll play it for you, with you, one more time. Okay, you play along with me. I'm going to show you another trick right after that. It's going to put the whole thing together and make it sound really complete. All right, here we go. From the top. 2, 3, 4, 1. One. Back to E. B, A, E. Now, even though it sounds pretty complete in that we can hear the chords while we're playing the melody, there's a lot of empty space in there. Another technique that I talked about in the first part was playing bass lines, and now we can use that technique to fill up those gaps and make this sound like a complete piece of music from start to finish. It's going to go like this. All right? Check it out, and then I'll show you what I'm doing. Now, it sounds like there's two different things going on, and in fact there are, but since they don't happen at the same time, you can keep them straight, all right? Now let's break that down and really look at it in detail. Starts off with the lick that I showed you initially on the E chord. Now instead of just hanging out and waiting for the A chord to happen, I'm going to play a bass run that takes me from E to A. It goes like this. So 3rd fret, 4th fret, I can use the same finger, it doesn't matter, and then the open string. Now what finger to use on the bass note is just any finger that you can get to. All right? I'm using my 3rd finger because it's not being used at that instant in the chord. All right, then I play my A lick. I can play the same lick off of the A bass note and then return to the E. Right? So now, putting them together, I've got right? You hear how smooth that sounds all of a sudden? And yet, it's very simple parts. The hardest thing about it is learning the individual pieces and being able to play them in tempo. So what you need to do is learn each lick and then play it really slow and gradually work your way up until you can play along with me. All right? Now continuing with the same idea, we've got the E, the A, and now we're going to play the E again. Now there I just use a couple of open strings and the bass run to help fill in the gap between the E and the A chord. Same idea there. I just use a couple of open strings, fills up that space, then I walk up into the B chord, back down to the A chord, and I'm ready for my turnaround. That's pretty hip. Let's play it together one time again, slow tempo, and go for continuity, all right? You're going to hear how all the ideas fit together, and then you can work on it on your own. Okay, here we go from the top. 2, 3, 4. Pretty hip, isn't it? Now you can do more with that kind of an idea, just experimenting on your own. The idea is hold the chord down and find out how many notes are around the chord that you can play without letting go of the chord. Okay, check this out. There's the upper part of my E chord. Now I'm fingering it this way so that I have 2 fingers free. That's going to make my melody playing a little bit easier. That sounds pretty bluesy right there. What am I doing? I'm bending the 1st string from the 3rd fret just a little bit. That's a blues trademark right there. All right. I've also got on the 2nd string, on the 3rd string. So right there I've got that's a lot of melody based around one particular chord shape. Now on the A chord you can use the same idea. We already worked on that one right there. Now remember there was another voicing of A that we used. This is with the 1st finger and 2nd finger. Easy to play, and it leaves the 3rd and 4th fingers free to play melody notes. Now where are they going to be in this case? We already know about that one. Crossing over to the 2nd string, there's one, 3rd string, that's pretty bluesy. Yeah, that's definitely bluesy right there. So I'm going 4th finger, second finger, fourth. That's a blue note, that's the flat 5. Second finger, minor third, and down to the root. Now that in itself is in fact a legitimate scale. That's called the blues scale. And we're going to come back to that a little bit later on when we talk about finger picking, because that's a very popular scale and a popular shape. But right now you can do it with a flat pick. Again, on the B chord, most people will just play the chord as it is and add a little rhythm with the right hand. And that's pretty much it. So you've really got a way to improvise in the key of E without really thinking about scales, scale patterns, or any different techniques. It's sort of what you might call an organic way of playing. And players have used this since the beginning, since the guitar started out as an accompanying instrument and sort of grew into its lead role.